The Crethaxian overseers found it hilarious when they tossed the dying Vellani child into Marcus Chen's cell. The human had been their prisoner for 3 standard cycles, enduring their psychological experiments with a stubborn silence that infuriated them. Perhaps, they reasoned, watching him fail to save an innocent life would finally break his spirit. The girl, if one could call her that, lay crumpled on the cold metallic floor, her translucent azure skin flickering between opacity and transparency. Her forearms were twisted at unnatural angles, and the bioluminescent patterns that should have danced across her body pulsed erratically, like a failing star. The Vellani were a fragile species, beings of pure energy contained within crystalline flesh. When that containment failed, death followed swiftly. Marcus crawled to her side, his own body aching from the day's tests. The overseers watched through the observation panels, their multiple eyes gleaming with anticipation. They had seen humans before, heard the stories of their stubbornness, their pack-bonding tendencies, their foolish attachment to hope. This would be entertaining. "Hey there," Marcus whispered, his voice hoarse. The girl's eyes, 3 of them arranged in a triangular pattern, focused weakly on him. She tried to speak, but only a whistling sound emerged from her breathing slits. Marcus had been a field medic before his ship was captured. He'd sewn up plasma burns on battlefields, stabilized compound fractures in 0G, and once talked a dying pilot through his final moments under enemy fire. But this was beyond anything in human medical knowledge. The girl's hand, so small, so delicate, reached for his. Marcus took it gently. Her skin felt like touching water held together by surface tension, cool and trembling. "I'm going to help you," he said, though he had no idea how. The Crethaxians laughed, their guttural sounds echoing through the cell's audio system. They increased the gravity by 15% just to make things more difficult. Marcus gritted his teeth as the additional weight pressed down on his already exhausted body. He examined the girl's injuries with careful hands. The Vellani anatomy was unlike anything he'd studied, but certain principles remained universal. Energy was leaking from the fractures in her crystalline structure. He could see it, faint wisps of light escaping into the air where they dissipated. She was literally bleeding light. In the medical bay 3 doors down, a bay he'd glimpsed during his forced marches through the facility, there were xenobiological repair kits. The Crethaxians used them to keep their valuable specimens alive. But the bay might as well have been on another planet for all the good it did him now. Unless. Marcus looked up at the observation panels. The Crethaxians were still watching, still amused. They thought him helpless. They thought humans were just another species to be cataloged, tested, and discarded. They didn't understand human stubbornness. "Listen to me," Marcus said to the girl, switching to galactic standard. Her universal translator implant was still functioning. He could see the tiny device glowing beneath her temple. "I need you to stay conscious. Can you do that?" The girl's center eye focused on him and she managed the slightest nod. Marcus began to sing. It was an old Earth song, something his grandmother had taught him. The Vellani didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Comfort, determination, defiance. The Crethaxians found it perplexing. Why would the human waste his breath on meaningless vocalizations? While he sang, Marcus worked. He tore strips from his prison uniform, knowing the synthetic fiber had insulating properties. Carefully he began wrapping the girl's fractured limbs, creating barriers to slow the energy loss. It wasn't enough. Wouldn't be enough. But it bought time. The Vellani's light pattern steadied slightly. Hope, Marcus thought, might be more powerful than medicine. Then came the hard part. Marcus stood, his legs shaking from exhaustion and increased gravity. He walked to the cell door and began pounding on it with his fists. "Hey! Your experiment is failing. The specimen is dying too quickly for you to get good data." The Crethaxians chittered among themselves. The human was correct. A death this rapid would yield minimal information. But what did he want? "Give me access to the medical bay for 1 hour," Marcus called out. "Let me try to save her. Isn't that what you want to see?" How humans problem-solve under pressure? It was a gamble. The Crethaxians could simply refuse, watch the girl die, and document Marcus's distress. But he was betting on their scientific curiosity and their arrogance. They thought themselves so superior that nothing a human did could threaten them. After what felt like an eternity, the cell door hissed open. 2 guards stood outside, plasma rifles trained on him. A third gestured with a clawed appendage. "You have 30 minutes, human. The guards will accompany you. Any attempt to escape will result in immediate termination of you and the specimen." Marcus didn't hesitate. He scooped the Vellani girl into his arms, cradling her carefully, and followed the guards. Every step was agony under the increased gravity, but he'd carried wounded soldiers through worse. The medical bay was a treasure trove of xenobiological equipment. Marcus's mind raced, cataloging, calculating. The Vellani's crystalline structure needed resealing. Her energy matrix needed stabilization. There, a cellular regenerator calibrated for silicon-based life forms. And there, a bioelectric stabilizer. The guards watched him, bored but vigilant. Marcus worked with steady hands, adapting equipment designed for other species, improvising. Connections. Running the regenerator at frequencies his intuition said might work. He had no manual, no guide. Only 28 minutes remaining and a dying child who had begun to trust him. "Stay with me," he murmured, adjusting the stabilizer's output. "Stay with me, kid." The girl's light patterns flickered, dimmed, then suddenly, brilliantly, flared. The fractures in her crystalline flesh began to seal, the bioluminescence spreading like dawn breaking across her body. Her eyes, all 3 of them, opened wide with wonder. The Crethaxian guard stepped forward, confused and suddenly alert. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans didn't understand Vellani physiology. The medical equipment wasn't calibrated correctly. There was no logical explanation. Marcus lifted the girl, now stable and glowing with renewed life, and turned to face the guards. In that moment, he understood something the Crethaxians never would. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't knowledge or technology or physical prowess. It was the refusal to accept that some lives weren't worth saving. The girl wrapped her 4 small arms around his neck and whispered her first words in 3 cycles. "Thank you." The Crethaxians would release them both the next day, their experimental protocol completely disrupted. They would file reports about the anomalous human behavior and the unexpected outcome. They would never understand what they had witnessed. But across the galaxy, in the councils and academies, in the fleet academies and colony worlds, the story would spread. The story of how one human, given a dying child for amusement, had risked everything to heal her. And humanity's reputation would grow, not as conquerors or warriors, but as something far more dangerous to those who ruled through cruelty. A species that considered every life sacred and would move heaven and earth to prove it.